Can we talk for a minute about our Integrating Heart and Mind workshop?
Absolutely. I'm excited. It's coming up in the fall of 2024.
I'm so excited. We changed the format to make it more accessible to people with like work schedules and personal schedules. And so this time we're going to do it 3 hours on a Friday afternoon or evening, depending on where you're at, and 5 hours on Saturday for 2 different weeks in September.
Yeah, it's so great. Like if you're finding yourself stuck in like sticky bad patterns or having communication issues or something like that, or if you want to just like get closer and trust yourself or your partner more, this is the workshop for you.
Yeah, and individuals are welcome, couples are welcome. If you're interested in really thinking through how to serve yourself well inside of your relationships, then we've built a workshop that will support you in finding the ways that are just right for you.
To sign up, head over to our website at whydoesmypartner.com/events.
We hope you'll join us. Welcome to the Why Does My Partner podcast.
I'm Jules.
I'm Vicki.
And I'm Rebecca. We're your hosts. We're also couples therapists and messy humans bumbling through our own relationships every day.
We met at a training, and our secret sauce is that we and our partners became fast friends. Between us, we have more than 40 years of experience holding hard relational questions with our clients. We're going to bring those questions here.
And together, we're going to take a stab at answering those questions. This podcast is not a substitute for couples therapy. If something you hear in this podcast stirs something deep within you about your relationship, reach out to a couples therapist in your area.
We also love to hear your questions, so don't forget to go over to whydoesmypartner.com to leave a question of your own. Our next live workshop, Integrating Mind and Heart, will be held online from September 22nd to 24th, 2023.
If you want to get closer and trust each other and yourself to get through the hard moments, this is the workshop for you.
Sign up at whydoesmypartner.com/events.
Welcome back. I'm Jules.
I'm Vicki.
And I'm Rebecca. Today's question: why does my partner never want to celebrate holidays or major milestones? He's especially bad at celebrating himself, but he's not a fan of traditional holidays or just generally making a fuss. He says that we should celebrate the everyday, and I'm with that. But what about making accomplishments or traditions we value? And how do I know the everyday is being celebrated if it's not made explicit or it doesn't feel somehow differentiated from other moments? Seems like intention is everything, but also naming it out loud matters too. I especially think about how our daughter takes this in.
Mm.
You know, one of the impressions that I have when I read this question is that this is actually a couple that's had some of the conversations. They've gone to each other and they've talked some of this out, not all of it, but they've started to have some of these conversations.
Yeah, because she's saying he said, so she does have some of his answers.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if she's trying to go deeper.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious, how much have you shared with him what is important to you as well?
Yeah, like a lot of these wonderings that this person is having in this question, right? How do I know? How do I know that the everyday is being celebrated if it's not being made explicit? What are how do we mark traditions that we value? What are we sharing with our daughter? Right? Like these are wonderings that I'm curious how much they've been talked about. But it sounds like the overarching question of not celebrating holidays or major milestones is one that has been talked about.
Yeah, for sure. It sounds like there's even some sort of agreement, though it feels like maybe not a full yes. Maybe it's more like a maybe kind of agreement that we're kind of secretly resisting a little bit, which is so common.
We're trying to, I don't know, avoid discord.
Totally. We know Discord builds trust around here, so we're big fans of it, but I also totally get why you would avoid it, and Lord knows I do it regularly as well. So it would be so much easier if we felt the same.
Wouldn't it?
That should be my motto. That is my motto.
Except that, it's just not reality.
It's not reality. I can get on board with that. But it's also, Jules thinks that things are more interesting when people are different. And I do not.
I'm sitting here going, wow, if we were all the same.
Oh, I think the world would be so wonderful.
And that scares the living bejesus
It
out of
does to me
me.
too. It's
It
awful.
feels like robotic or something. Like like I'm just getting like, I
Oh.
don't know, some kind of like we're all aliens or robots living in some world being puppeted by someone. Like I get some kind of weird
You
Of
do.
course you
Yeah.
do.
apocalyptic vibe.
Of course you do, because
Oh,
it's so outside of reality.
So
It
outside.
The only way it would happen would be apocalyptic.
Yeah.
So that's the truth of it. So
okay.
no
Yeah,
kidding, it
sure.
goes there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So and these differences, and I know I don't know about
I'm in my
with
fantasy land. I'm sorry. I live in fantasy land.
uh-huh.
Go on.
Yeah,
Mhm.
of course you do.
I do.
So I was thinking that, well, maybe some of these things that we're really different on feel totally cool before we have kids. But once
Mhm.
we
Mhm.
have kids, it's like a non-issue. It's like, "Oh, I wish we had a Christmas tree, but you don't wanna put one up. That's cool, we won't this year." Like, it's not a
Mhm.
big deal.
Yeah.
Um, but but when it comes to raising kids together, now we're worried about how our household is
Mhm.
setting up their life for the future. We know a lot about how memory works these days, and so, of course, you do have a ton of influence on how your little one is
Yeah.
gonna see the world based on how you run your home. So I get why this question is coming up around a child as well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does the general public, not to go down this rabbit hole, but does the general public know, like, about how memory works and all that stuff? I'm just not
No, I don't
that's
think
yeah.
so, but I
So I just
mean,
wanted to
we,
push
the
back a little bit.
scientific no, we, the
Yes.
scientific
Okay.
community, are
Sure.
starting to learn a little bit. We're in that
Thank you.
phase of late teenagerdom where we thought we knew a ton, and now we understand that we
That we don't.
got it wrong. We know some stuff, but we are now in this realm of how much we do not understand. But that it's
Mhm.
really important and that it's very complex. That part we do
Right.
really get, and that it matters a lot. What happens in childhood that actually sets you up for how you see the world. So
Mm.
And
the
hey,
idea that
well,
it
we can
doesn't
talk
matter
about
has
this
been
more in our
debunked.
upcoming workshop, Integrating Heart and Mind. If folks want to go deeper into like how all of these like implicit memory systems work, we have lots of opportunities to dive in deeper with us and learn more there.
I love
Yes.
that. I love
That
that.
was well
But
done.
for but for this one, I wonder if we could talk about how to negotiate differences.
Because that's
So
really what this
yeah,
is.
yeah, that's all this is. And you could in
Well, I think it's
you could
this, but
shift like
can I
content.
add a piece in
Mhm.
here?
Yeah, sure.
I think it's totally about negotiating differences. And I think there's also another layer that
Mhm.
we need to name.
Okay.
Because I think part of that is about like the cultural impacts of ritual and belonging
Mhm.
and what that feels like to those who have experienced it
Mhm.
and
Mm.
what it feels like to folks who haven't experienced it when
Mhm.
it
Yeah.
just feels like we're in some kind of commerce economy that's all
Mhm.
about commercialization and selling,
Mhm.
Well,
right?
Mhm.
yeah. And
And
can I
or maybe there's a blend between all of that, right? Like maybe you've
right.
experienced some and some hasn't felt good. Like we're all trying to make sense
Mhm.
out of
Yeah.
this world that we live in.
Well,
Yeah, yeah.
and
And
like right when Jewel, I mean, the question asks, I especially think about how our daughter takes this in. And so as we were talking about children, my mind also goes to, and I don't know this questioner, I don't know the partner, but my mind did go to what happened in his childhood, which I think, Rebecca, you might be alluding to. Like what happened in the
Mhm.
holidays in his childhood? Were they not celebrated enough? Were they overdone? He doesn't want to do that again. So the question being, well, why doesn't he want to? I'm theorizing it's because of his experiences back then. Just my
well,
theory.
and I might even take it a little further, Vic. I might even say,
Hmm.
like, things have become so, like, if we're talking about religious holidays or something like that, it could be that he's not religious, doesn't come from a religious
Right.
family,
Could be.
right? But it
Hmm.
could also be that there's like a de- decontextualization, right? Like
Mhm.
Does
that
that mean like
his
separated out? I just want to make sure I
it's
understand the word. Like separate the religion from the commercial piece?
no, I think what I'm trying to say is like we lose the context, we lose the meaning, right? Like
Yeah,
we
yeah. Yeah, that's okay. My phrasing
Mhm.
yeah.
wasn't good for you, but I'm on the same page. Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so we're like
Hmm.
we're losing some kind of meaning over
Hmm.
time about like what is this actually about?
Mhm.
Hmm. Could be. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I agree with you on that one. And it could be the
Mhm.
answer as well. That's why I say it could be.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And
And it
so,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah. So I was just thinking, so when we're talking about ritual, when we're talking about celebration, when we're talking about marking big things, my question for both of you, and it may be that your answers are really different, is what does that mean to you?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you want to honor both those meanings inside
Mhm.
your family context so that your
Right.
daughter has exposure
To both.
to both.
Mm-hmm.
Like I grew up in a family
Mm-hmm.
that my parents divorced really young. And so my Christmas was a this is just an example, was a flying holiday for me. I would fly.
Right.
Christmas morning I got on
Okay.
a plane, and Christmas night I would land wherever my dad was. So that plus later on in adulthood, it becoming a bit of a competition between my parents. Are you choosing me for Christmas? Or are you choosing my
Oh,
dad for Christmas? Your dad for
pardon
Christmas,
me.
and vice versa. Made me really adverse to it. I was like,
Yeah.
forget this. I don't want
Yeah.
anything to do with it. So I'm just
Yeah.
naming. There's a lot of different kinds of contexts that we can come from. What's crazy about it is then I had a kid, and then I'm like, oh, she has to have Christmas. So now I have Christmas again. But we didn't have trees for ever. We didn't have any until she was like 2 or 3. Like,
And
so
she's
we didn't.
having a very different experience than you did.
And she's having a
Like, that's
very,
what you're
very
making
different
sure of.
experience. Oh, she's
Mm-hmm.
having a very different experience. Then I'm
Right?
carrying some of the rituals from both homes
Yeah.
into that space. And Adam comes from a different background as well. So
Right.
we're carrying different stuff from his family into our family as well. So I don't know. I mean, I think our reactions and responses to what we grew up with is going to be a huge part of this.
Mm-hmm.
Responses to what these rituals really mean to us outside of the commercialization is going to be part
Mm-hmm.
of this as well. And it's how do we navigate differences?
Mm-hmm.
Can I tell you where I see clients get stuck with this all the time?
Please do. Please.
Is people lock into strategy. So it's, I want to celebrate Christmas. I don't want to celebrate Christmas. Or I want to celebrate what insert the birthday in a huge way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't think we should. I think it spoils the kid. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
whatever that push and pull is. Now we're both locked into strategy. And what it's going to lead to is an argument about which strategy is more right.
Yes.
Oh, well,
Correct.
And so
mine.
right.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to prove that no, Becky,
Oh,
you're actually
yeah. I'll have
incorrect.
all the
Mine
ways to
is
prove my
more
point.
correct.
Yeah. And
Right.
use
Right?
all the ways. Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
see if you could only understand this. Let me explain it better.
Yes.
Let me explain it different. Hold on, wait. Did
Oh
you
my
see
God,
it this
that's
way?
so true.
I don't
That's
think
so
you're really
true.
listening to me, because if you were
That's so
listening to me,
true.
you would really see.
You're really not being compassionate. If you were compassionate, you would understand me better.
Totally.
It's so true. All of it.
I have a tip. Here's your take home tip. I have a tip for you. Separate the needs that are getting met from the strategy that you're using to meet them. So here's how you play that out. I keep
Mm-hmm.
using
That's what I'm wondering.
Christmas. Let's use something else. I want my daughter to be able to invite whoever she wants to her birthday party. My husband is worried about her being spoiled, and so he wants her only to have
Yes.
5 people
I was
invited
going to say
to
he
her
wants to
birthday
limit
party.
numbers in this
Let's limit
example. Yeah.
numbers. Mhm.
Okay.
So, yeah. So then what we would do is we would say, he says to himself, okay, well, what needs are getting met for me if we do it my way? And I
Mm-hmm.
say in my own head, what needs are getting met for me if I do it my way? And then we come to the table and we sometimes make a drawing, or we make a list if you're a list person, and we put all the needs in one spot. See if any of them overlap. See if any of them are even exactly the same. And then let's think about, if we met as many of these needs as possible, what would that look like? What strategy would we come up together? Maybe even I actually challenge my couples to come up with 3 or more strategies that would meet as many needs as possible.
I
Wow,
And
love
3 or
what I
that
more.
so
do
much.
exactly. So what I do is I actually have them write the needs on postcards and then like little index cards. And
Mhm.
then we come up with strategies, as many as they can come up with. 3 to 5 is great. If you can come up with even more, great. And then you start putting the postcards, how many get met here? How many of the needs get met here? How many of these? And then you can see it visually of which
Mhm.
ones are going to get which strategy really makes the most sense for your family. Because more of the needs are going to get met in some of them than others. And which ones is it okay to say, no, this one's not going to get met here? Or which one is really, really important? Yeah. I even color code them so that everybody gets a one very, very important need, and then the other ones are more minor needs.
Mm.
I
So there are
love
2
that.
purple cards because those are the ones that are the most important.
Mhm.
Everybody only gets one. Yeah. So feel free. You can tell I'm very creative with this.
You
Feel
are. You
free.
are. This is a great idea. I'm stumped. I gotta tell you, I'm just stumped and another rabbit hole
Yeah,
of
yeah.
like, what is the need? What is the need behind limiting her number, and what is the need behind the need? Obviously, I
Oh,
see the
yeah. Sure,
strategies.
sure, sure.
What needs could possibly be happening in
My
there?
need is to honor my daughter's longing to feel celebrated on her birthday.
And
Okay.
That
my
may or may
need
not be
is
linked to the fact that I didn't get birthdays growing up.
and my need is that I need my daughter to really like understand the value of things
Mhm,
and um
mhm,
make sure that like there's not just like that she understands moderation,
mhm, mhm.
Thank you both.
So we
Okay.
right?
want
And
we
that
Mhm.
want her
that
to
might
feel
also
celebrated, and we want her to honor moderation.
right.
How do we do both of
Yes.
those?
Right. Okay. Ooh,
Now
awesome.
we now we're not gonna fight about
Well, the fight has changed.
the fight
I
is
was just saying, like you
But
might
we're also not going to
leave.
fight now, right? Like
now
that's
we're
the other
having a
part.
discussion.
It's yeah. Well, I'm just thinking like the strategies you come up with to meet the needs. This is not a guarantee that you won't fight over those strategies still, but this does change the dynamic and gets you onto a more we place.
Yeah, this is a
That's
we
all I'm saying.
Yeah,
strategy.
it's
Yeah,
moving
yeah,
you into an us
yeah,
consciousness kind of mind.
yeah.
Mhm,
Mm-hmm.
mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because now we're looking at both of our needs and we're coming up with a
Mm-hmm.
strategy around that
Mhm,
instead of our protective system strategizing to meet our needs.
mhm.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times the needs are super unconscious because I could probably come up with,
Yeah.
5 or 6 different
Mhm.
needs that I was
Yeah.
meeting. I also, want her to feel seen by me. To me, that falls under good mom category. I need
Mm-hmm.
I need to show up for her in a way
Mhm.
that she feels believed by me. Like, right? I could
Right.
there's a whole
Yeah, I
list
can
of
come up
things.
with other
Yep.
needs
Yeah.
too, right?
Mhm,
Like I could I want to make sure that we're not just showing our daughter we love her by how many things we buy her or how many
Right.
people we have around. I
mhm,
want her to know our love in different ways.
mhm,
I
mhm,
want her to just know it. I want it to be
mhm,
intrinsic. And that might, by the
mhm,
way, be because of the way that someone
Mm-hmm.
might have raised me. And maybe
mhm,
my background
Yeah.
was filled with me not knowing certain
mhm,
kinds of love,
Mm-hmm.
mhm. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, like, a lot of this could be really implicit and like a whoosh, like it's just
Yeah.
coming through us.
a
Yeah.
history related, something
Mm-hmm.
learned about the way the world works, sort of. And it's not learned like a thought, it's learned like
No.
emotionally known.
Yeah.
But
I'm
when
just
you're,
thinking
I
what a
love
pain.
what you're doing with this, Jules, because as you get us to start thinking about the need, the implicit stuff is rising.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Exactly.
I think that
Mm.
implicit stuff is a pain in the bum. I just want to say that. I just wish everything
I
was. I
really want
wish.
you to learn how to make friends with it.
I wish the brain had more efficient ways to talk to itself.
This is the efficient way.
This
This
is.
is more efficient. That's why we do it this way. Because you
No, because I
can't
want things to
No,
be more
this
conscious. Like I
Oh,
want to
why?
know
Conscious
without
brain is too slow. Too slow.
Conscious
then I
brain is
don't know
not
why I'm
efficient
doing what I'm
brain, but conscious brain is not the efficient brain. The
But then I don't
efficient
know what's
brain,
really going on and why.
That's true.
So I want the brain to be less efficient. There, I'll say it that way. I just want the the subconscious to talk easier to the conscious.
Could I tell you the cost if you did that? If you had it
Sure.
your way? Okay.
Yes.
You would have to consciously reevaluate the chair every time to figure out what a chair was. And then you'd have to consciously reevaluate the computer and relearn how to use it you'd have to actually actively recall in
Jules, I
order
don't
to
deal well
type
with
or
reality.
walk.
So no. No. I
Thank God our brains are
both.
very efficient and run by
I
our
want what I want
subconscious
when I
mind.
want it, but I don't
Yes.
want to.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, which is totally my son's motto. But I know I'm wondering where he gets it from. I want that stuff to stay implicitly. That's fine. I want the other stuff, like why I think everything is my fault, to become explicit.
Mhm.
And I can't have both. And that's why I
Well,
don't live in reality.
I'm going to slow us
Yeah.
down for just a second because I think that there is a balancing point in here.
Mhm.
But it means that like I'm doing my work and I'm sitting with myself and I'm exploring things like what's the need underneath the strategy. And as I
Mhm.
start to do that, I start learning more about those implicit threads. And
Sure.
as I start pulling them together, I can
Pulling them,
start
yeah.
weaving them into something, right?
Mhm.
And now I have this whole cloth of that makes a lot of sense to me and helps me understand that implicit world because I've spent the time to get to know it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
That's
ultimately,
true.
this could lead to a conversation that starts something like, I realize I really want to talk to you about how we do celebration in our family. And I'm realizing I'm having a longing for fill in the blank with your needs. And how we're doing it now is not meeting those.
I was going to say, you just introduced request.
And
Yeah.
so I'm
Yeah.
wondering if we could talk about how else we could meet those. And it doesn't have to be celebrations that don't feel good to you, hon.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to not speak up
Not.
about what feels missing for me too.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to do the background work in order to have that conversation.
Right.
Especially if you want to have that conversation without bringing it from agenda.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because I really want to listen to my partner.
So I love the skill of separating strategy from need
Mm-hmm.
and like loving it.
Yeah.
It's super fun.
Yeah. I'm just going to I think maybe we just land there and we let our folks even try it out.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Let us know how it goes.
Yeah. Go forth. Make some note cards.
Go forth.
Oh, before we end though,
Oh.
this is our last episode for the season.
Oh my gosh, that's true.
Wow.
That's another season.
Wow.
It just flies by.
It really does. Hey, we don't want to go without letting you guys know that there is a new workshop coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And it starts like in about a week, not less than that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe a few days. So like last chance to get in with us. whydoesmypartner.com/events. It's called Integrating Heart and Mind. And we are going to be talking about so many of the things that we talk about here. We're just going to take you deeper and more experientially into it. It's a 2.5-day online workshop, and we'd love to have you there.
All right. See you soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
That wraps up this week's episode. Join us again next week for another Why Does My Partner?
We hope that you continue to listen wherever you get your audio and that you'll follow the show.
To go deeper, join us at one of our workshops. You'll find our next date at whydoesmypartner.com.
Did you know you can ask us your questions?
Your questions are relational gold.
Go to whydoesmypartner.com to either write in or record your question for a future episode.
And here are some gratitudes. Thanks to Al Huberman, our sound editor and podcast production magic maker.
Thanks to every one of you who has joined us for our workshops in the past. We've learned so much from all of you.
And thanks to everyone who's reviewed the show on Apple Podcasts. Your reviews help others to find the show.
Take care of each other best you can.
See you next time.